Hello, and welcome to Crafting Minds and Machines, My Journey to AI. This is a talk for Aspiration Digital. Why is it that we can't tickle at ourselves? Have you ever thought why that is? The reason is in order to get a tickled sensation, it has to be unexpected. Your brain can predict your own movements. So when you try and tickle yourself, you don't have that sensation. And it's the part of the brain called the cerebellum. And this monitors movements and also expected and unexpected sensations. Today, I'm going to talk through how you can gain the skill of creating the unexpected and why you should do so in digital. My name's Tom, and I'm a technology consultant, or CTO, better known as a Chief Technology Officer. And I've spent my life in agencies primarily. I've worked for some and built my own. Currently today, I am a CTO at Freestyle Agency. I run the Web3 Council at Beamer, and I co-run a Web3 education startup called Loster. I'm also a maker, hacker, and a builder. When I was young, I used to take a lot of things apart. Much to the frustration of my friends and my family, whilst taking things apart, I really struggled to put them back together again. But over the years, I gained the skill of taking old things to then restore them to have a new life. And I found the reason for doing this was to really not only break things, but also understand how they are built. Some people learn in a methodical way, and some people learn by taking existing things and breaking them down to understand how they actually create. As I grew my family, I saw this as an important life skill. So I try to embark this onto my children as well and say that it's an important skill to learn to take things apart and be able to understand how they've been created. My second passion is running, trail running specifically. I've only been doing this for 2-3 years. Now, in Tennessee, there's a very famous race called the Barkley Marathons. And the Barkley Marathons is a very large and long ultramarathon. It's over 100 miles long. And it consists of 5 loops, which are 20 miles each. And it's along a completely unmarked trail in very rural Tennessee. Now, whilst 100 miles is a very long way to run, in the grand scheme of things to ultramarathons, it's not huge. Yet there's only 7 people that have ever finished the Barkley Marathons. Why? Because Lazarus, the owner and the runner on the right-hand side, creates every year a completely unexpected experience. This isn't just running. Every loop, you have to get to a checkpoint and find a book, which he places. You have to find that book, tear out the page associated to your race number, collect them. When you then come back in to check in, you have to give them back to him, which he checks through. And it is brutal. And the reason is because it's unexpected. Sir David Brailsford, who is the head of British Cycling, came on board to take British cycling team and reinvent them. Now, up until that point, British cycling had only ever won one single gold medal in its 76-year history. At the 2008 Beijing Olympics, under Sir David Brailsford, his squad now won 7 out of 10 gold medals. Why or how? It's through marginal gains or 1% gains. So what he looked at is, rather than looking at a big challenge whole and trying to run at it and take the whole thing on, break it down into tiny, small, little micro improvements. So things like the bike seats he made slightly more comfortable. He found rubbing alcohol on the tires gave slightly better grip. He then asked the riders to wear electronically heated overshorts to maintain ideal muscle temperature. Now, any one of those things individually, you could say that's not going to win us a gold medal. But the compounding effect of them all together significantly did. I took this methodology both in my professional and my hobbies as well, with running, to eventually get to the point where I can run long distances with friends and enter competitions and events. So what have I learned across these two areas? Number one is to be more patient. Large tasks, complex skills take time to be able to acquire them. But number two, don't stop being more unpredictable. Keep your creativity, regardless of profession that you're in, and push boundaries by creating new things. Through my love of taking things apart and building, I found that I really still loved digital. And I always wanted from that to be a developer and get into coding. But I knew that through my taking physical things apart and restoring them, it wasn't just digital. I still liked physical things to take apart and restore, a bit like spoon carving, which is one of my hobbies. But back then, and we're talking 15, 16, 17 years ago, there was no iPhones, there was no social media, there was no YouTube. So that hill to climb of being able to code and build websites and applications and tools was ginormous. Where did I go? On top of this, I also lacked the ability to have patience as well. I came across a guy called Seb Lee Delisle, who's a digital artist. And back in the day, he used technology and digital to create art. And back then, the framework for coding was primarily used by a platform by Adobe called Flash. And the framework was called ActionScript. And this was a coding language that allowed you to build any kind of website or tool with very much, with a lot of complexity and also a lot of creativity. It was huge. There was massive conferences, one of them being Flash on the Beach, all around the world, lots of big brands building tools in it. And slowly over time, it evolved from 2D into 3D. And one of the technologies was called paper vision. And this allowed rich experiences on the web to be built, which I was involved with and I created. This led me on to one of my first failures, building my first agency called Source Multimedia. And Source was we called it a multimedia agency, effectively as a digital agency based up in Liverpool, where we used Flash to be able to create applications. Now, back then, we were two young boys out of university. We had very little life skills. We had no business skills, no finance skills. We couldn't network. We didn't know how to run a business, but we knew how to code and we knew that we had fun doing it. So we pursued this over 2 to 3 years and we learned a lot from it. And it took me on to my next place. I knew from my love of coding and creativity and breaking things and understanding how they've been built, that I got to the point of understanding about for myself, how do I actually do this and how do I keep on top of myself in terms of pushing these new ideas. And one of them is with something that's called divergent thinking. So you can think of convergent thinking as solving a puzzle. The end point of the problem is always going to be the one single thing. Okay, the Rubik's Cube, there was one result at the end to be able to solve that puzzle. Whereas divergent thinking is the opposite of that. And the analogy could be painting a picture. There is not one way to paint a picture at all. There is many different ways. And there's lots of different ideas that then inspire other artists to create different pictures in different ways. And it's through this, with my ability to code, that over the number of years, I've had the amazing experience of being involved with some incredible businesses, agencies, and organizations where I'm grateful to go on panels like this. I run my own education business called Roster. I work at different agencies, and I also have fun It's my own time to be able to keep learning and building new applications. And it's this ability to really try to push my own thinking and my creativity first, and then see, okay, what's available to me to be able to code and build all of this, that has built my career over time and allowed me to develop as an individual, as a developer, as a CTO, that I can advise businesses on how to create and push different boundaries. This all comes down to my philosophy that people need to be able to create these surprise moments. Okay, you need to be able to, your brain needs to be able to have surprises put in front of you. And surprises are the one thing that everybody remembers, the unexpected. Now, let's move on to the topic of AI. The reason why I'm talking about AI today is that I believe it is one of the fastest growing and the biggest opportunities for individuals like yourself to be able to learn and be involved in this technology because of the power it has to create these unexpected experiences. So first of all, where did AI start from? 1956, there is a gentleman called John McCarthy, and he coined the term AI back in then at a conference in Dartmouth College. He went on to create a programming language called Lisp, and actually Lisp is still being used today. So Lisp is what's known as a list processor, and effectively it deals with very large data sets and uses something called recursive functions to analyze and sort the data. So recursive functions work in the way that rather than going through a data set once, it can consistently repeat itself over and over again to be able to find insights and trends and patterns within data. Fast forward where we are today, and we are at a point now in the last 3 to 4 years where the technology has advanced significantly. How AI works is in 4 stages. Number 1 is the data. So raw data itself can be anything from images, text, sound files, video, documents, anything at all. And the power of AI only comes in when you have a large volume of raw data. Now, that data has to be categorized and labeled. Over time, because we now have a large set of large language models under AI, it means that labeling is starting to be done for us. But believe it or not, there is still services and where humans are needed to be able to label a piece of data and say that a cat is actually a cat. Next, we have a reward system. So in order for the language model to be able to categorize that data appropriately, it needs to be incentivized and learn what's right and what's wrong. And the last thing is all of this needs to be trained at scale. It needs to be going through a training model consistently over time to be able to build up this level of intelligence. Going on to the real world application of AI, the interfaces you use now, you're more than likely used to ChatGPT, work by taking very large chunks of the internet. They compress that data, that text files down, and they end the output of that is into a format called a large language model. And ChatGPT is one large language model, and there are hundreds of other large language models that people have built. And you can think of these as the intelligence model of that large volume of data that's been compressed down into a usable framework and format that can then be analyzed and queried and asked. Just to give you some scale of this, the tools you use now go like this. You would take on average around 10 terabytes of text, which put that in comparison, one song file, one audio file is around 3 to 4 megabytes. This is 10 terabytes. You would have to use around 6,000 GPUs in a server or in a computer farm, and consistently run them for 12 days And that would, on average, cost you around $2 million. And the output of that would be a 140 gig large language model file. And it's this file that allows the intelligence that we all see and use a lot of the time in things like ChatGPT to be able to predict and create new things. So how it's working under the neural network is it's taking what you are inputting into it and trying to then predict and work out what is the next sequence of words or questions that this individual is asking me. There are two types of AI, generative and predictive. You can think of them as predictive being an example that we all will know of using Netflix. When we go on Netflix and we see the recommendations, that is predictive AI that's using trends on your watch history, comparing it to other profiles that are similar to you in terms of your watch history, and merging them together to say, here's 10 other films that we think that you should watch. You use Apple or Google Maps, you use Spotify. They are all using predictive AI to be able to work out what's going to happen next. Generative AI is a bit like painting a picture again. Generative AI is creating something brand new that does not exist from scratch. And this is only coming about recently, and in terms of a more usable interface for people to create brand new videos and images and audio files from nothing with programs like Midjourney. So first of all, let's just have a little play around with seeing how this works. Now we know and hear about the differences between generative AI and predictive AI. Generative AI is extremely powerful in being able to create something from nothing, or take something that exists, like this video that I'm talking to you, and potentially put it into a different language. So here is me talking to you as I'm talking to you now. And now let's try and see if I can learn Mandarin. Here we go. 现在我们知道并听说了生成式人工智能和预测式人工智能之间的区别。生成式人工智能非常强大，能够从物中创造出东西，或者将已经存在的东西，比如我正在和你交谈的这个视频，潜在的转化成另一种语言。所以现在我和你说话，就像我现在和你说话一样。So you can see there's a lot going on there with predictive generative AI. It is not only translated what I have talked through, it is also lip reading and creating new shapes within my mouth to be able to match the differences in verbal communication from Mandarin to English. And as well, it's matching my tone and my own voice and creating something from nothing. Now, a lot of this can be looked at in lots of different sentiments. Number one, you have the people that see this as another trend, it's another fad, it won't be here in a few years' time. You then have the people saying it's going to take over the world, the robots are coming, this is very scary, we should not touch this at all or play with it. And then we have the people that are more optimistic. They're the more people that will look at this technology and see it's not going to significantly change the world, take over everyone's jobs, but it's giving me an extra superpower to be able to think differently and create brand new experiences that nobody else has ever created before. And I feel, and I'm here today to talk to you about that you should be in the third camp. You should be leaning into this, and this is why. Number one, there are no assumptive responses with this tech, right? There is no, going back to being tickled, you cannot predict one-to-one what is going to happen with this. And that's so exciting in terms of pushing new innovations, building new tools, building new experiences, and coming up with new ideas. The behaviors and experiences are completely not taught. Even though you are training, and humans do train those models, the output and use of those, it can start to learn itself. And number three is that superpower of creating those surprise moments. Over the years, I've used this technology and built lots of different applications and tools using AI to be able to push businesses on how they could use AI for building new experiences. And it's created a lot of pleasure in my skills. So what's in this for you? Netflix took 3.5 years to reach 1 million users. Okay, ChatGPT took 5 days. The world that you are in right now means that the ease of getting to play with AI and understand it and build with it is so accessible compared to where it was before. But also, the world is moving into an AI world. Businesses and careers are moving towards it. A huge percentage of companies are already building AI products within their businesses. So they're expecting AI skills when they go through and employ their new workforce. Our location today means that we are in a prime position for AI adoption. And again, these skills will be needed. Many careers, yes, will be impacted by AI, but don't see this as a negative. It's going to give you more skills to learn and progress and push you as an individual in terms of what you can move more towards. Hopefully that's been of interest. Please reach out if you can. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to help you with your career and your journey with AI. Thank you.